I'm not sure that it's trending, but I'm beginning a new initiative. It's a solar power initiative. As you know, the city is always finding ways to save money, and we have an experimental program going on down in Marlborough Street where we've replaced 25 streetlights with lower energy LED lights, and we have, I think there are 2 levels of them, and they're letting them go at night and having people drive down and give their input on how they work. One of them is a little brighter than the other one's a little dimmer, and I think one is a little bluer. But anyway, they're gonna try to retrofit the entire city eventually. And what they say is that we're going to realize substantial savings. Right now, we spend around $170,000 a year for electricity on streetlights. For most of the city, the downtown is a separate line item, so that's a totally separate thing. But we just replace those with LEDs anyway. So what I was thinking is that before we retrofit the entire city with LEDs that are on the grid, in other words, that are attached to the electrical lines, and therefore we'll still have to buy electricity from the utility. Why not add to the experiment and take 10 or 15 of the streetlights and retrofit them with solar-powered panels to see, number one, whether or not they work, whether or not they provide enough light, whether or not they last. And then get into the costs of it and the whether or not we ought to invest in things, because it doesn't make any sense to spend $400,000 retrofitting lights where we're still going to be using fossil fuels when the rest of the world is getting away from fossil fuels. Even cities in the United States are totally off the grid as far as municipalities go. Why can't we do that? So I'm going to put together a proposal and bring it before City Council to see if we can't add that experiment before we take a capital improvement project on that would retrofit everything.
Do you have a timeline? Do you have a date? Do you think you're going to try to get it before the council?
Well, I want to do it this month. Right now, I've been sending out feelers to people like John Condos, who is instrumental in getting solar panels on the co-op, and other members of the Cities for Climate Protection Committee, and other like-minded people who know a little bit about electricity and efficiencies and things like that, to try to get input. And then I'm going to go to the planning department and get their input on what it is they're doing and why they may not have thought about solar, whether or not we're just too timid, or maybe they know something that I don't.
I can't imagine that.
Well, it's probably true that they do.
I believe it has come up with the planning department before, and I'm not sure if it was cost or the output, the candle power that solar lights put out. Now, when you're talking about this, have you seen them in action in other places? I've seen them in Florida, and it has the array right over the light, right over the light fixture, probably the size of your little laptop here or something like that.
Well, the county, 8 years ago or 9 years ago, when they put the jail in,
yes,
those streetlights that go to the county jail are solar-powered lights, and they're still working fine.
So I guess that'd be a good one to look at.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the feelers I have out there. I'm trying to talk to Mr. Bouchard, who's the assistant administrator for the county, to look back and to get as much data on that as possible. But recently, when our sister city people from Einbeck, Germany, made a visit, I sat down with members of the Public Works Department, and they absolutely blew me away with some of the things that they're doing there. They, of course, don't have many of the kinds of regulations that we do. We have in the state of New Hampshire something called a net metering law, which limits the amount of electricity that can be put into the grid from alternative energy sources. It's in my mind, it's there to protect the utilities' profits. Recently, I think it was last year, the legislature doubled the amount of kilowatts that was allowed onto the grid from alternative energy sources, from 50 kilowatts to 100. But that's nothing. That's nothing. So, you know, we'd have to go and get by barriers like that.
Right.
But, you know, countries like Germany, Japan, you know, even, you know, Bulgaria and places that you'd never think of when you think about innovation and what have you, are way ahead of us. Way ahead of us. As far as the cost goes, unfortunately, U.S. manufacturers are way behind. They're way behind. I costed out some of the features that were. I asked the Public Works Department of what were the specifications, and they're saying that anything that would provide 400 lumens and whatever.
Right.
You know, a lumen is that's how they measure brightness of lights and such like that. So I went online and I asked a number of companies from all over the world to give me a cost estimate on the climate that we have, because you know we have more days that you know, because of our northern latitude during the winter, we have to account for the number of hours in the day that we're going to get light and that we're not going to get light. So in our latitude, it's you know, just to be on the safe side, we have to provide for 14 hours of darkness per day. And that's just the worst case scenario. Of course, during the summer and other times, you'd never get even close to that. But in any case, most of the companies in the United States are actually 2 or 3 generations behind manufacturers in Sweden, China, and Japan. For example, one company, the lowest bid company that I found in Florida, came in at $4,750 for one light set. And the ones from China and Japan come in at $645. It's a huge difference.
Yeah, and the thing with solar too is unless you're getting, you know, rebates, tax offers, or something like that, or some kind of grant funding for that, the output of cost is so much money. It takes a long time to get back the initial cost that you put out.
If you buy from the companies that are charging $4,700, but if you're buying from the company that's charging $645,
But there's got to
then
be a difference, I would think, with such a big price difference.
Yes, and the difference is the generational technology. They're way ahead of us. For example, China just came out with a new battery. I mean, you know, we talked about batteries. We've had the same lead-acid battery for 150 years, essentially. I mean, with very little innovation, you know. And that's what solar power storage is all about, and especially in the northern tiers here, is we need to have a powerful battery. And because of the temperature, the efficiency goes down the colder it gets.
Right.
So you need a bigger battery. Because we can't go directly into the grid because of the net metering laws.
Exactly.
If we didn't have the net metering laws, we could just have a $150 solar panel on top of every street light in every city in the state, and every city could become a major producer. There's another law. You cannot just become a producer. It's not for any practical reason, it's a political reason.
That's right. And
So you're going to be looking into this, and you're going to report back not only to the city but to this show in 2 weeks with a massive update.
Massive update.
Massive
yes, yes.
update.
Massive update, not a little, a massive.
Yes.
Stay tuned on that, because that is a good initiative, and that's appreciated.
it is.
think
Energy
it's
is a
a lot of
big
work.
topic.
It certainly is.
Whether you're talking about fracking or, you know,
Look at
anything,
New Hampshire. A lot of manufacturers don't want to come to New Hampshire because our energy rates are too high.
they are.
So I mean that ties right into the economy.